If you've ever felt like the hustle harder mentality isn't for you, this conversation might change the way you think about building a business that actually lasts. What does it really take to run a digital agency for almost 30 years?
Every day I find myself needing to be so patient. It's like a marriage and you have to just hold your breath sometimes to wait for things to happen. So you just have to be endlessly patient, I think, is the biggest thing. Now with AI, it's more about citation and people mentioning your brand in a good way, rather than the actual link, which is good in a way because links are difficult to get, easier to get a citation.
In this episode, we get into why SEO isn't dead no matter what the headlines say, the commission-based email strategy that's actually getting responses, and the one thing 95% of e-commerce sites are missing that could be the difference between browsing and buying.
I'm gonna confess that.
Rob Faulkner, what does it take to run a business for almost 3 decades, almost 30 years? I'm curious, what's the secret sauce?
Well, enormous patience, I think. Every day I find myself needing to be so patient. I've worked with the same people for 20 years now and they're brilliant, but it's like a marriage and you have to just hold your breath sometimes to wait for things to happen, particularly when it comes to bespoke development. However many years you do it, never seems to be on time or correct first time. So you just have to be endlessly patient, I think, is the biggest thing. I think, and then as one of my characteristics is that that is one thing I have going for me. What else does it take to run the business? I'm quite a laid back person. So I think that translates into a non-corporate culture. We don't do much. We were discussing before about sort of job titles and roles and that sort of thing, but we don't do that. We have people who work, who do their job and are given free rein to do their job how they want. We don't have meetings. We don't take up time discussing, we don't do much of the soft stuff, the traditional stuff, which you might find in normal agencies. Those sort of tick box things like having, I don't know, a holiday on your birthday or 3 sausage rolls or all those modern management things. We just get on and do the job.
Interesting. Now, there's something that you said in there which strikes me. In the modern agency, pretty much everybody wants, they want things right now, and AI tools are being developed so that is the case. You can have whatever you want, all the shiny new fancy stuff, you can have it right now. But as you said, like, patience is a virtue, and over the long term, that's what's going to win. Honestly, it's, in the early term, yes, you have to be doing great work, but really a legacy business is just the ones who stick it out the longest.
Yeah, I mean, yes, we've seen businesses come and go, and some of our clients have asked for AI stuff since last year so that they can tick that box. We've got one client who is using AI properly and for a purpose and for, it's helping their business, helping them develop sort of specific content for their business at scale, which is good. But we are not the shiny, flashy agency that I would have liked to have been, maybe. And I've seen agencies, come and go since we started. So we started in 1998. I've seen others start later and get much bigger. And, there's an element of jealousy there. On the other hand, they bombed as well, or some of them bombed. And also it's quite stressful. We've gone for the slightly less stressful approach of steady, make money, keep it real, keep a sort of steady workforce and keeping our clients close, I think.
You have employees that you've worked with for 20 years. They've stuck around. I would imagine that some of that is because they see opportunity for themselves to grow, or maybe there's another facet where they feel like they're amongst family or people that understand them. And there's probably another facet that say, we just like Rob. Like, he's a great guy. He's a great leader. He lets me do my thing. I guess, how do you balance having people who are on your team that want to grow in a certain direction, but you also want to take the company direction? It almost seems like there's almost like this employee ownership feel, even though that might not be set up that way in terms of compensation structure. How do you balance like the direction where your employees and people who work for you want to take the company versus where you see the company going?
It's a good question. I mean, it's just a bit of luck, really. Every day you wake up and think, gosh, they're still here. That's good. They may have wanted, we're not many people, so I think we're all quite idiosyncratic. None of us are particularly agency people, and maybe none of us really wanted to go and work in a big company where you do all those big company things. But possibly it's sort of by a process of attrition, worn them down and make them realize that staying within this culture, within the company is good, and it's a happy working environment. And when they want to go and work, in the early days when working from home was a bit out there,
Mm,
they were allowed to work from home and work all hours of the day, or night rather. Some of them
mm.
just work at night. So there wasn't that sort of, oh, you must do this. I want to see you here at 9 o'clock in the morning. I want you for this meeting. Then here, next time, and I wanted to deliver what you promised to deliver. On my desk tomorrow morning. There isn't that, so maybe that appeals to them. So maybe the sort of lifestyle, work-life balance appeals. I don't know, and I don't ask in case I get the wrong answer. Um, I am glad to have the team that I have. We always need someone else, or it could always be different, but it's been okay.
Yeah. It seems like a bit of an unconventional approach where you're kind of zagging as everyone else is zigging. It almost seems like, obviously, in the digital agency space, things are moving fast. Clients have high demands. Everyone is trying to niche down, increase profit margins. And it almost seems like you have this unique way of avoiding the noise, but still remaining at the cutting edge and integrated. How do you see and respond to the way that the market is and to the way that your competitors are playing the digital game these days?
Well, it's weird because I never really set out to run a web business, and I'm not very technical, so I rely on the information that the clever people I employ tell
Hmm,
me. So I do my, do what I can, but um, yes, definitely we're definitely unconventional. Yeah, avoiding the noise is interesting. Just have as well as having good employees, we also have quite good clients. We have, on the whole, have good clients who stayed the course, appreciated the support. When the time when your e-commerce business is growing, you don't really want to be chopping and changing suppliers the whole time. Obviously, a lot to have.
hmm.
But if you feel comfortable and your sales are coming in, as a client, you don't really need to move. So, we're lucky we have a small number of clients who have kept us going. But yeah, we're on. Yeah, I am an unconventional, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And with all this data, like you mentioned, we don't have a bajillion clients. We don't need to, but you do have the data over time. So I'm curious, maybe what patterns or trends have you seen from clients that you work with in terms of digital marketing that have remained relatively consistent? And then has there been a shift recently? Like, when was that shift and what was the trend? Maybe it's AI. I'll let you kinda go with that.
In marketing, it's weird. It's always been the same. We did SEO right from the beginning. Our first brochure had mentioned SEO, web design, and hosting. We've always done all three.
What was the third one?
Hosting,
Hosting.
hosting, yeah. So we've always hosted. So we've always been in control of the whole client environment, which has given us an element of control, which is good, particularly when they don't pay their bills. And what was I going to say? Yeah, the marketing, the elements of marketing have always been the same. SEO obviously has evolved, but being found on search engines. 1998, there were about 200 search engines, which we were worrying about. Then
Mm,
now it's just one, obviously, generally, and now it's AI. But the elements are the same: good content, authoritative content, a well-structured website. It's all pretty much the same as it's always been. With AI, it's like there's a lot of off-page stuff with AI that is important, rather than links. Yeah, we're always chasing links forever, but now with AI, it's more about citations and
mm.
people mentioning your brand in a good way, rather than the actual link, which is good in a way because links are difficult to get,
Oh,
easier to get a citation. But then the other thing, and I guess the other thing with the marketing is attribution, because again, previously the beauty of paid marketing was you could say, oh, well, all your clients have come through paid channel on Google, or your sales have come from SEO, and that was basically the only two ways people were going to find your site,
mhm.
give or take. But now, you do a Facebook campaign for someone or a paid marketing campaign, and really you don't know how the sales come. You can attribute it to AdWords if you want, but you've got no idea. And the best metric is sort of hunch, I think,
A hunch. Yeah, I know, I know.
because
It's
they might have seen your brand, they might have scrolled past your brand on Facebook, they might have tapped, remember the URL, they might have. You just don't know how they're going to find you and see you, and then come back to you on a different device. So, I mean, there may be people cleverer than me out there. I'm sure there are, who can work it all out. But for our clients at the level we're working at, I think you know whether your marketing's working or not.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard there was one metric. It was the marketing, gosh, I can't remember, marketing expense ratio or something like that. Whereas basically, like, all right, how much is the business spending on marketing per month? And what's the total revenue generated that month? And let's just divide the two. That's basically it.
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I mean, you can turn one channel off if you want, and then work out the difference. But
Mm,
um, if you're an online business, you need to be doing them all anyway, so you may as well just get on with it.
yeah.
Obviously, it's a bit more nuanced than that, but generally, that's that's a change anyway. It's impossible to attribute
Hmm.
sales to one or one particular channel, I think, and all the channels bounce off each other anyway. So you might see someone on Instagram, you might go to the website, tell your wife, go to it next week on a different device, and it's just who knows where that sale came from.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm going to say that you no longer need to prove to your clients that you're producing ROI for them. Some have been with you for many, many years, but let's just assume that you are trying to prove ROI month over month. I mean, it's still important, but like you said, your clients trust you. They've been with you for a long time. They've experienced the waxes and wanes of the market. So, how is it that you explain that or report that? Or, I guess, what are your client reports looking like these days?
Well, I'm gonna confess that they're like the SEO reports are SEO reports. They're full of data which I don't think the clients are looking at in too much detail. SEO reports tend to be like that, with lots of graphs going up and down, which really are very difficult to interpret. Obviously, keyword ranking is good. SEO reports can be useful. I mean, whether or not you're attributing a sale to SEO or not is one thing, but you can actually see where you are ranking generally in search engines. So,
Hmm.
the keyword reports are important, but some of the other metrics that get reported on, quite honestly, go over my head and probably go over our client's head. How much traffic is coming from Google is the only metric anyone's worried about.
Hmm.
But that's, SEO is a fantastically difficult area. And we've done it for 28 years. It's really interesting because, when you get it right, it's brilliant. But sometimes you're just pushing water uphill for small websites. But, they're just never going to be found
Yeah.
to, to, if you're selling scarves or something, or socks,
Yeah.
um, or, perfume, you're just not going to compete.
Yeah.
So it's really difficult for small brands. It's just really difficult to get seen now. Paid
Yeah.
is really brilliant and Facebook brilliant, but still tricky.
Yeah.
You've got to have some clout.
Yeah. Many of our listeners are agencies, as I mentioned to you, who are working with SMBs. They're working with the small businesses who maybe don't have that visibility, or maybe they're newer brands, not to be confused with like a startup. Like B2B SaaS as a startup is a different ballgame, is very crowded. But let's talk on the other side of things, family businesses, local businesses, particularly you're mentioning e-commerce. So we'll talk about someone who wants to start a clothing company, right? Like I think I have a cool brand, a cool idea, um, and I want to get out into the market. But let's say I've been, you know, grinding and I have some sort of a revenue. I'm in the multiple six figures now, but I'm still a relatively small brand and I want to work with Datadial. What are your recommendations in terms of a marketing strategy, knowing the tools that you have available, SEO, PPC, billboards, whatever? I mean, what's your
Yeah.
recommendation in 2026 for the small brands to get found?
Well, we're just working with a new brand at the moment who kind of fill that criteria. And I think the one thing I bang on about is personality. So many of these Shopify sites go up and they all look the same. They've got the lovely header, the grid, the banner, the pop-up.
Mm,
Great. Ticked all the boxes, which is good. And that's this particular brand we're working with now. They haven't ticked some of those boxes, but it's really nice. It's a site which sells teddy bears. It's a perfect, there's a great opportunity to make it really cozy, comfy, homely, everything you expect from a teddy bear, but it looks like a sort of pharmaceutical site because it's built on a Shopify template.
uh-huh.
So, well, I don't know, it's a template even. It's just a Shopify. It's just standard
Yeah,
vanilla
yeah.
white background website. So it's fine. It works. And when I first saw it, I quite liked it because the products were so nice. But the more I looked at it, I thought, you need to have your personalities come through it. And some of that is through videos of you making the product and, the founder talking about the product, but also it's in the design. You can tell websites which get sales because the sites look They look lived in.
Mm.
And I don't know whether you've listened to that podcast by the Hammersley brothers. They're always going on about the restaurant test. Do you know the Hammersley brothers?
Uh-uh. Tell me.
I don't know who they are particularly, but they talk. They are. They run an agency, I think, and they promise the world, like we all do. Anyway, they have a podcast and they talk about the restaurant test. So it's like, if you're walking past a restaurant and one is empty and one is full, you're going to go into the full one because it's
Yeah.
got atmosphere. It's got you think it's good because it's full. And it's the same with
Hmm.
websites. They look empty. They don't look unloved. If you've got a product with a review page, if you've got a review, if you've got reviews on your product pages and you haven't got any reviews, but it still shows the product review, it just says we haven't got any reviews yet for this product, and it just looks like you don't care.
Mm.
So just being that one better than the other website which is selling the same product, be a bit better, give it a bit of personality, give it a bit of character and artistry, spend a bit of money on the design. Just don't be another Shopify site.
Yeah.
That's one way to stand apart from the crowd. All the other things like e-commerce 101, referrals and pop-up boxes and 10% discounts, that's all good stuff too. That's got to be in place. But I think to be one better, you just
Hmm.
need to give it some personality so people feel that they're buying something from someone, something rather than just a bland corporation.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Some faceless shill that's just trying to make money. And
Yeah.
Spotify or Shopify obviously has very easy templates. I mean, that's kind of their value proposition, right? We all in one. We can set up a store in 10 seconds, and you're off to the races making money. You bring up a good
Yeah.
point where people want to connect with people, even if what you're selling is. I mean, it's all related to people, of course. At the end, I mean, somebody is on the other side clicking a button for now until we have agents that are doing that for us. But the website being looking lived in, that's an interesting perspective and maybe a way to talk about it that I haven't heard before. You're talking about reviews, you're talking about some sort of experience that shows that our product interacts with the world and here's the feedback that it got. I think is
Yeah,
what you're saying,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. So you get it's easy to put your reviews tab on it. The reviews widget. I mean, everyone's got that, but maybe just add something extra. Have a picture of someone talking about it, or it's a review in a slightly different format, which isn't just same old Trustpilot review. I mean, I may be a bit jaded. I mean, obviously looking at a lot of websites, so
Hmm.
I need to be careful that I'm not just I'm not sort of saying this because I've seen too many websites, because maybe other people don't see it like I do, but you can see the tick box
Hmm.
exercise going on. Okay, reviews, email pop up, blah blah blah. Just
Hmm.
give it some character. But yeah, it's if you're starting out, yeah, it's really tricky. I mean, I have
Yeah.
seen one guy who used to work for me. I didn't know it, but he'd set up a Shopify site, very vanilla, very boring, selling vitamins, and he started doing a huge turnover, and then he
Hmm.
left because he was earning
What?
so much money on his side hustle.
Really
So
interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Huh.
So it can be done. I mean, he's obviously he was good at SEO as well, and I think that helped. The So it's not impossible, but obviously that was a few years ago. He probably did it at the beginning of Shopify, but now there are just a gazillion Shopify sites out there, and it's so easy to create a website. But you've got to have the business sort of you've got to have some money to market the business.
Yeah. And what you're also talking about is bringing your personality because everything is commoditized these days. The differentiator is the brand, and the brand comes from how an individual or a small group of individuals typically see the world, how they see it differently. That personality and that worldview perspective has to come through in the brand in order for differentiation to happen. You're quite active on LinkedIn that I noticed, and I really appreciate the posts that you do because they're not all super businessy and buttoned up. One of them, you're skydiving, which I want to ask you about. Maybe let's jump into that. But the segue that I'm getting at is how do you think about personal brand? Is it something you think about, and how do you tie that back to the business, knowing that the personal brand is not the brand?
Well, I mean, I guess it's part of the reason when your lady phoned me up and asked if I wanted to be on the podcast.
Hmm.
I said yes because I think I took the decision last year to come out of my shell a little bit and
Yeah.
to start telling people all my wonderful thoughts, and hence my LinkedIn posts, which have been going on for about a year now. They are supposed to be, not, as I said at the beginning, try to avoid all the sort of earnest tropes of corporate agency speak, and just getting a bit of truth out there, getting a bit of humor,
Mm.
getting a bit of reality. It's not all good. It's not all easy. We all make mistakes. Let's try not to try and pretend we live in an AI world where everything's perfected by chat GPT. So yes, there's supposed to be a mixture of posts, and someone helps me write them, or has helped me get my sort of get me off the ground, as it were,
Hmm.
and they make sure I sort of do it every month, so that because it's quite easy to forget to do it and not bother doing it.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I thought that it was important. I think it's important. If you do get a lead, an inquiry from someone, they've got to check up on you somehow. They've got to see whether you're active and see whether you're serious.
Mm.
And I thought this is a good way of doing it. As I said before, we don't do awards. We don't fit that sort of traditional model of agencies. We're not flashy. So this is our attempt at just putting our heads above the parapet and being a bit more communicative.
Yeah.
We need to do a bit more um,
Mm.
when if we have the time. But I'm glad you noticed it. So it's
Yeah.
obviously working,
Yeah.
and we have picked up a client from it.
That was my next
Um,
question.
yeah, and just trying to think whether we've got two clients. It was slightly sort of oblique how it happened, but it wouldn't have happened if we hadn't been doing the LinkedIn posts.
Mm. Yeah.
Weirdly, we wouldn't have we've got the lead otherwise, but we wouldn't, difficult to explain. But if we hadn't been doing the LinkedIn, we wouldn't have been able to convert the clients.
Got it. Yeah.
I could explain why, but anyway, so it has been, in that respect, it's been positive, and it's quite nice. It's quite nice. We're seeing who finds you. There are people out there who kind of maybe they're doing the same thing. Where everyone may be on LinkedIn for the same reason, just hoping to bump into people. I guess that's the point of it. But it's quite nice seeing who reads the post, and you get some feedback, and it's just beginning. And like all these people who start blogs, they start with one follower, and that grows. And
Yeah.
I should have been doing it 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
so I'm
Yeah.
late to the party.
I hear you on that. Yeah, I'm really trying to step up my LinkedIn game as well because I see so many people really broadening their network. It's easy to think that it's just it's just a social media platform and like I don't really need to take it seriously. My business is elsewhere. I my sandbox or my playground is I don't know in Asana or in emails or whatever. But
Yeah.
the reality is like you said, bumping into people is where a lot of opportunity actually starts. I'm curious if your main lead generation source is not LinkedIn right now, what's your most, I guess, successful or primary acquisition channel these days?
It's always a tricky question because, you know, leads are few and far between, and marketing is it doesn't happen as consistently as it should. So we don't really have a reliable methodology or data on that. But anyway, lately,
Mm,
email marketing has been a good source of inquiries, and I
mm,
have gotten quite a good email that I've managed to send out. The content of which is, it's getting inquiries for the first time ever. When I send out an email, I'm actually getting inquiries. So there's something good in there which is appealing to people. And
mm.
there's no surprise what is good because it's me offering to work on commission.
Nice.
So not surprisingly, people quite like that.
Hmm.
Um, and it generates inquiries, and it doesn't mean, if it develops into business so far, either it hasn't been a commission based sale, so that's good. So I didn't have to work on commission, or it's been a mixture of commission and some hay work. Sorry. And so it's working well. So my only so that's working. As an email, it's well crafted and it's generating a response. So people do receive emails and they all reply saying, "I never usually reply to an email, but I
Hmm.
reply to it." Which
That's
is
funny.
always yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. And you're right. It's hard to, particularly I see this in agencies where their job, like their business is to provide marketing and lead sources and bring in new business for their clients, but it's often overlooked. It's tough to do for the agency because you're so dedicated to, doing it for others. It takes
Yeah.
you almost have to create your own client or your agency as your own client and then allocate resources to that and treat it as a normal client. Yeah, I can
Yeah,
understand.
yeah. Well, we tried to do that, but that never seemed to work either. I say to the people, I want my reports like as if I'm a customer, but
Yeah.
surprise, surprise, I'm the lowest on the list of
Yeah.
customers.
Right.
Um, but it is, yeah. I mean, getting leads is obviously very difficult. We've tried a bit of everything. Word of mouth, obviously, very strong. I mean, about SEO anyway. So if you architect your site properly, you have a page for everything you do and all the different services that you do, then there's a more chance of you being found for that specific service. So occasionally that works. If anyone knows the secret, let me know.
Yeah. Right. I know, right? It's changing all the time. Rob,
Mm.
I know as we wrap up here, where can we find more about Datadial? Where can we find out more about you? Obviously, we'll include your LinkedIn, but do you prefer people email you or what's the best channel?
Well, shall I give you my details? So datadial.net is our URL. Weirdly.net, because we're so old, it used to be used to be the thing if you're a sort of techie company to be .net. So that's
Mm.
why it's .net. Don't ask me why it's Datadial. Just, it was again from the time when you used to dial up your data. So we have pedigree. You can find us therefore on datadial.net or LinkedIn.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, I appreciate you coming on as a guest and sharing your breadth of experience. It's rare that I get to talk with someone who, it has a company named after dial up to get your data. That's it's
Yeah,
an
I
incredible
know.
it's an incredible experience.
Well, we always wanted to change it to something more flashy, Rapala or some cool made up name.
Yeah.
You never get around to it, and then you get used to it, and then why change?
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah,
I think it's cool. I think it's cool.
thank
Definitely.
you. Thank
You
you.
have some heritage. Well, awesome. I appreciate you again. Thank you for being here and we will see you next time.
Okay, lovely. All right, thank you. Okay, bye bye.
Cheers.